I remember the first night I arrived at the outpost. The wind whispered through the skeletal trees, and fog curled like smoke across the frozen ground. The lamps along the path flickered, as if struggling to breathe, and somewhere far off, a faint humming echoed, low, metallic, almost too precise to be natural. I felt alone, though I knew the satellites above could see me, could track me, could watch everything. Yet down here on the edge of the world, I wasn't sure I wanted anyone to. The walls of my cabin groaned in the cold, each creak carrying the memory of something or someone having been here before. Outside, shadows stretched unnaturally long, sliding across the snow like ink and water. I tried to focus on the warmth of the fire, the soft rustle of the old blankets, the mundane reality of being alive. But the fog kept pressing closer, and the static in the radio whispered back at me, shaping words I wasn't sure I had imagined. And then, in the corner of my eye, I saw a movement. Not human, not animal, just something gliding, slipping past the edge of the light, leaving a cold trail behind it. My pulse slowed, then stuttered, caught somewhere between fear and wonder. I reached for the door, thinking I should see it, or perhaps run. That's when I saw it. The outpost sits alone, beneath a pale moon that barely warms the earth. The forest stretches endlessly, black and silent. I can hear the hum of the generator through the floorboards. It's steady, constant, like a heartbeat I cannot match. Outside, the trees whisper in the night wind. Then a flicker. Beyond the tree-line, small lights pulse. Soft at first, like fireflies caught in glass. I step outside. The cold wraps around me, sharp on my skin, and the fog crawls along the ground, curling around my boots. The lights shift. They move as if they know I am watching. Each pulse feels deliberate, a slow breathing in the dark. A rustle behind me? No, nothing. Just my own shallow breath, whispering back at me. I take another step forward. The fog thickens, swallowing the forest in gray. Every tree becomes a shadowed shape. Every shape a question I cannot answer. The lights, closer now, hover between the trunks. They flicker in patterns that almost feel aware. I want to look away, but I cannot. Something moves in the corner of my vision, a shadow slipping between the trunks. Not a person, not fully, just watching. The air smells damp, earthy, with a hint of something metallic. I swallow. My pulse thrums in my ears, loud against the quiet. The lights drift again, pulsing slower now, almost like they are breathing with me. I can feel the hum under my feet, through the soles of my boots, through my bones. A soft footstep? No, just the fog shifting. Yet the sense of being observed grows heavier. A presence curled into the trees, patient, waiting. I try to calm my own thoughts. Breathe. Tell myself it is just the wind. But the wind does not pulse. The wind does not whisper. The wind does not shift when I move closer. The lights edge nearer, sliding over the moss and roots like liquid eyes. I can see nothing beyond them, but I feel them everywhere. A shiver runs up my spine. I am alone, but not alone. Something is sharing the space with me. Something patient, quiet, hidden just behind a veil of fog. I pause. The lights halt. The fog halts. The forest waits. Then a flicker, a rustle, a breath too shallow, too deliberate to belong to me. I step back, soft and slow. The fog swallows my movement. The lights pull away, retreating into the trees, but the sense of being watched lingers. The air tastes of cold steel now. A quiet static hum lingers, as if the forest itself is listening, and every small sound I make echoes longer than it should. I return inside. The door shuts with a soft thud. The outpost sighs, settling back into its usual hum. I stand at the window. The lights are gone, but I can still feel them, drifting just beyond the trees. Watching, waiting. I lie down, trying to convince myself of nothing. The fog presses against the glass. Shadows move inside the room, though no one is there. The hum beneath the floorboard sounds louder now, like a secret kept in the dark. Sleep comes, but uneasy. The lights might return, or the shadows might step closer. I do not know. All I know is the forest waits, and I am still listening. Midnight sits heavy on the outpost. The fog presses against the windows, pale and still. The forest beyond holds its breath, waiting. The radio crackles. A sequence of tones bursts from the speaker. Sharp, irregular, almost deliberate. I freeze. The hum of the generator dims against it, swallowed by the static. The tones, they feel alive. They twist into shapes in the air, like a language half-formed. I can almost hear them say something, but the words slip away before I can understand. I lean closer, hand brushing the cold edge of the radio. The metal feels slick under my fingers, and the faint scent of ozone drifts from the speaker. The static grows heavier, folding into itself, thick and soft, and somewhere beyond the trees, the wind carries it further. Curiosity pushes me out the door. The night is damp, fog curling around my legs like slow smoke, each step muffled by moss and wet leaves. The radio's tones guide me, subtle, unyielding. The forest is silent, but not empty. Branches scrape overhead, soft and deliberate. Shadows cluster where the fog is thickest. I can feel eyes, or perhaps something else, tracking me with patience I do not want to measure. I trace the signal deeper. The tones twist and pulse, almost like a heartbeat. It pulls me past trees that lean and arch like waiting hands, past roots that twist underfoot, slick with night dew. Then I see it, a faint pale light among the trunks. Hidden beneath hanging moss and brambles, the transmitter, its shape impossible. Thin metal, humming faintly, wires crawling across the forest floor, as if it has grown from the earth itself. I crouch near it. The air smells metallic, electric, and strange. The tones wrap around my chest, pressing against my ribs, soft but insistent. I touch the transmitter. Cold, smooth, alive in a way I cannot explain. The static folds over my hands. Tiny pulses that tickle my skin and echo in my mind. The forest reacts. Fog curls closer, tighter, and the shadows lean with me, not threatening but curious. The hum beneath my feet sinks with the transmitter now, soft, low, almost like breathing. I step back. The signal flickers, shifts. The tones twist into something resembling words, but I can't catch them. They hover at the edge of hearing, just beyond the mind's reach. I realize I do not know where it comes from. No path leads to it. No mark on the ground shows a beginning or an end. Yet it exists, pulsing and deliberate, a presence folded into the forest itself. The hum, the static, the soft vibration of the earth, it all lingers on my skin. Every breath tastes faintly of metal and rain. Every shadow seems heavier, patient, watching me weigh my next step. I leave it there. I step back toward the outpost. The tones fade slowly, folding back into the fog like a secret the trees keep. Inside, the radio is quiet again. The hum of the generator returns, thin but steady. I run my fingers along its cold surface, try to convince myself that it was nothing but interference. Yet I can feel it still, drifting, pulsing, waiting somewhere beyond the reach of sight. And though fear curls in my chest, curiosity lingers longer. I lie awake listening. The fog presses against the window. The shadows lean closer. And somewhere in the forest, the silent signal waits to speak again. Snow drifts against the cabin walls. A pale moon presses through the fog, soft and cold. The forest stands silent, frozen in stillness. I wake to footprints outside, curved lines in the snow, twisting and looping. I live alone. I have no visitors. The footprints start at the tree lean. They wander close to the cabin, then turn back, as if testing the space between the world and mine. The snow is crisp under my boots. I step carefully, noticing the subtle frost that clings to my hair and eyelashes. The air smells clean and biting, yet something heavier lingers, metallic, faint, unplaceable. Shapes flicker in the fog. Tall, impossibly thin figures that move just beyond my sight. I blink. They are gone. Or maybe I never saw them clearly at all. A whisper, soft, my own name. The sound coils around the trees, around the snow, around my chest. I cannot tell where it comes from. I cannot tell if I am speaking or being spoken to. The footprints loop again. Impossible angles, Curves that should not exist. I trace them with gloved fingers. The snow yields to my touch, cold and granular, but reveals nothing more. The fog thickens, swallowing the forest in gray. Shadows stretch along the tree trunks, longer than they should be. I feel the air move against my skin, soft brushes that are not wind, and the hairs on my neck stand, listening. I step outside fully. The cold bites through my jacket. Every footstep hums in the quiet. I reach the last arc of footprints. The snow is undisturbed beyond them, as if whatever made them vanished into nothing. A flicker in the fog. A tall shape bends an impossible angle, thin as smoke. It tilts its head toward me. I freeze. The air tightens. I hear my name again. Closer now, but still soft. A breath carried through the icy mist. I hold mine. The forest listens with me. The shapes shift, looping, retreating, advancing in silence. The footprints repeat the impossible pattern, circling the cabin, never leading away. I cannot follow them. I cannot turn away. The snow smells faintly of wood smoke and frost. The shadows move with patience, stretching long and thin, leaning closer with an unhurried curiosity. I retreat inside. The door thuds softly, closing the cold out, yet I can feel it pressing at the edges of the glass. The footprints are frozen in place. The fog waits beyond the walls. I sit by the window. My breath fogs the glass. I watch the pale light bend over the snow. The whispers echo in my mind, soft as a wind, insistent as my own pulse. Alone. I am alone, and yet never entirely. The fog drifts across the yard. The footprints are still there. The shapes linger at the edge of the light. My name rises again on a soft wind. I do not move. I pull the blanket around my shoulders. The cabin hums quietly. The snow sleeps under the moon. The shadows wait. I close my eyes, trying to believe I am safe. But the frozen shapes, the looping footprints, the whispers all linger, patient, watching. The frozen lake lies quiet under the moon. Ice stretches in pale sheets, smooth and endless. The forest edges frame it, dark and patient. I step close, boots crunching lightly over frost. The air smells sharp, clean, with a hint of pine. Every breath tastes cold, metallic, and alive. Beneath the ice, something hums. Soft, faint, a vibration that shivers through the snow, through the soles of my boots, through my chest. I lean closer. The surface is opaque in patches, pale blue and white. But here and there, shapes glimmer, shifting slowly beneath the frozen surface. They move like shadows, alive. My fingers brush the icy edge of the lake. Cold bites deep, sharp enough to make me gasp. The hum pulses, sinking with the tremor of the ice. It is patient. It is deliberate. The shapes swirl beneath the surface. Thin, twisting, almost sentient. I blink. They are not fish, not quite water, not quite shadow. Aware, watching. A soft gust rustles through the trees. It carries the scent of frozen earth, damp leaves, and a faint metallic tang. I hear the hum deepen, almost like a sigh beneath the ice. And it seems to respond to me, to my curiosity, to my hesitation. I take a step back. The ice groans faintly, a low, stretching note that resonates beneath the lake. My heart thumps in reply, louder than I would like, yet I cannot turn away. The fog curls along the water's edge, pale and slow. Shadows shift within it, mirroring the shapes below. The lake feels vast, endless, like a secret folded into the night. I kneel at the edge, fingers brushing the smooth surface. The hum grows stronger, vibrating through my fingertips, tiny tremors that echo into my bones. The shapes under the ice coil and stretch, a silent dance beneath a frozen veil. They drift closer to the surface, yet never break it. I can feel awareness in their motion, a quiet, deliberate intelligence. The world is still. No wind, no footsteps, only the hum beneath the ice. It lingers in my chest. A pulse, a rhythm I cannot claim. I draw back. The cold bites harder as I rise, my breath curling in the air, white and trembling. The shapes retreat into deeper blue, folding into shadows that wait beneath the ice. The forest watches silently. Branches sway gently, indifferent, patient. The lake hums softly, a secret whisper beneath its frozen skin. I step away, boots crunching softly over snow. The vibration lingers, faint but insistent, pressing against my back and into my bones. I cannot stop feeling it. Back at the cabin, I press my hands to the glass. The fog blurs the world outside. The lake seems distant now, but I know it waits, patient and aware, humming beneath the ice. I sit quietly. My pulse still thrums with the memory of it. The hum echoes in the silence, soft, subtle, like a secret the night will keep, and I cannot forget. The cabin sits quiet beneath a pale winter moon. The fog presses close, curling along the edges of the walls. Outside, the forest waits, patient and still. I hear it first as a faint scratching, slow, gentle, almost hesitant. From the door, I hold my breath. The air smells damp of pine and frost, with a faint metallic bite. My chest rises and falls, slow, deliberate. The scratching comes again, longer this time, deliberate, curling over the wood, soft and persistent. I approach the door, hand trembling against the cold knob. The fog presses against the window, faintly visible, like it wants to reach inside. I open the door slowly, and the marks appear, scratches along the wood, curling and jagged, letters forming my name. The fog surges closer, pressing into the room, inhaling warmth, carrying a cold that seeps into my skin. I feel it on my face, cold fingers brushing my cheeks. I step back, heart thudding. The air tastes faintly metallic. The hum of the cabin is swallowed by silence, dense and heavy, stretching the seconds. The letters shift in my vision. Or perhaps it is me shifting, eyes wide, pulse loud. The fog coils at the threshold, patient, aware. I reach for the door again. Fingers brush the rough wood, and the cold seeps deeper, as if the marks are not just on the surface, but etched into the air itself. The scratching pauses, then begins again, softer, slower, a whispering brush against the doorframe, like a finger tracing a name in the night. I press my palm against the wood. The letters shimmer faintly under my fingertips. A slow breath escapes me, curling in the air, carrying a scent of frost and wood smoke, sharp and lingering. I step back. The fog presses still, heavier now, curling into corners, drawing warmth from the room, and the shadows bend closer, patient, watching. The door hums beneath my hand. Or is it the hum of the fog itself? The room feels smaller, the air heavier, my breath louder than the silence. I close the door. The letters remain, faint in the dim light, like they exist between the wood and the air, anchored to something unseen. I retreat to the window. The fog leans against the glass. The world beyond is gray, blurred, infinite, and I can still feel the marks, the whisper of my name, soft and persistent. I sit quietly, pulling a blanket over my shoulders. The cabin hums faintly with residual warmth. The fog waits at the edges of the room, silent, patient, aware. I close my eyes. The door is still there. The marks remain. And the whispers linger, folded into the cold, into the air I breathe. The first light of morning seeps through the fog. Pale and thin, it brushes the treetops, softening the edges of the forest. The snow underfoot is cold and brittle. I step outside. The air smells of frost and damp earth, sharp and clean. My breath curls in the pale light. Small clouds that fade quickly. Beyond the tree line, I see it. A figure. Pale. Unmoving. It stands among the trunks. Still as the morning itself. The fog clings around its legs, curling in slow, deliberate loops. Shadows bend toward it, leaning, patient. I feel the air tighten against my chest, like the forest is holding its breath. I take a step forward. Soft snow crunches beneath my boots. The figure does not shift. It does not blink. It waits. The cold presses deeper into my skin. Every rustle of branches, every creak of ice feels amplified. The hum of the world is muted here, as if the forest itself is silent, watching. I take another step. The figure remains unmoving, but I can feel awareness in its stillness. The The fog swirls around it, touching me with every step closer, cold and damp, brushing my hair and face. I reach the edge of the clearing. The figure is no closer, no further, and then it vanishes. A space opens where it stood. Empty. Only footprints remain, pressed into the soft snow. They lead away from the forest, trailing into nothing, as if the ground swallowed them whole. I stare at them, heart thudding. The air tastes metallic, sharp and cold. The light drifts across the snow, pale and unsteady, casting shadows where there are none. I step closer to the first prints. The snow yields under my fingers, cold and granular. No sign of where they end. No trace of what made them. Only silence. The forest leans back into itself, quiet and patient. Branches sway lightly in the thin morning wind. I feel the echo of the figure's presence, folded into the frost, trailing in the empty footprints, alive in absence. I retreat slowly, each step soft and deliberate. The fog presses close, curving around the cabin, gathering warm from the ground. The footprints linger in my mind. The pale figure lingers, somewhere between the trees and the air. Waiting, silent, I reach the cabin. The door is cold under my hand. Inside, warmth returns, but the image of the figure and the trail into nothing does not leave. I sit by the window. The morning light drifts pale across the yard. The snow is quiet. The forest waits. And the footprints vanish into memory. But I know they are still there, somewhere beyond the edge of vision. The cabin sits quiet beneath a gray, overcast sky. The fog clings low to the ground, curling between trees. The frost bites softly at the edges of the window pane. The radio crackles. A voice emerges, familiar. My voice. I freeze. The words are mine, but I did not speak them. The syllables curl through the static, soft yet urgent, a rhythm that presses against my chest. I lean closer, hand brushing the cold metal. The vibration hums faintly through the table, through my fingers, through the soles of my boots. The voice grows clearer, insistent. Words I do not remember forming in my own mouth. A warning or a lure? I cannot tell. The air smells faintly of ozone, cold and metallic, like something pressing just beyond the glass. My pulse matches the static, faster, uneven, and every breath I take curls in the pale light, small clouds that fade quickly. I stand, step toward the radio. The voice grows urgent, folding around my thoughts, curling into the quiet spaces of the room. Shadows stretch along the walls, leaning toward the vibration. I feel the hum under my boots, a pulse that does not belong to me, yet moves with me, pressing closer. The words continue, half-formed, looping, repeating, soft as breath, sharp as frost. I step back. The radio hums, the voice folding into itself, and the fog presses against the window, drawing warm from the room, curling over floorboards. I hold my breath, the voice inside my own head now, soft, insistent, folding into memory, into fear. The static pulses in rhythm with my pulse. I can feel it in my chest, in my hands, everywhere the air touches skin. The words repeat. I know I did not say them, and yet I recognize the tone, the cadence, the weight of them. The cabin is silent otherwise. The frost clings to the walls. Branches sway outside, patient and watchful. I feel the presence of something folded into the vibration, something patient, waiting, aware. I step back from the radio. The voice lingers, echoing faintly, soft, urgent, unresolved. The static swirls into silence, but the memory of it hums in the air, in my chest, in the edges of the fog pressing against the cabin. I sit by the window. The world beyond is gray, shifting, and I can still hear it. My own voice, folded into the night, warning or calling, I cannot know which. The fog presses close. The frost bites at the edges of the glass, and the radio waits, silent now but not gone. I close my eyes. The hum remains in my chest. The words remain in my mind, and I know they are waiting, patient, aware. The tower creaks beneath my weight, with groans softly, weathered and cold. Fog drifting from the forest, curling around the legs of the structure, pale and slow. I step onto the observation platform. The air smells of frost, damp pine, and something faintly metallic. Breath curls in front of me, small and fleeting, like ghosts escaping into the night. The forest stretches endlessly. Still, waiting. I feel it pulse beneath me, subtle, patient. Flashes appear in the distance. Soft, pale light, hovering silently. Orbs that drift without rhythm, without sound. They move like they are aware of me, and I am aware of them. The fog twists unnaturally around the lights. Currents that should not exist, curling and eddying like slow fingers reaching through the night. Every shift feels deliberate, as if the air itself bends for them. I step closer to the railing. The wood is cold beneath my palms. The wind brushes my face, carrying the scent of damp earth and frostbitten leaves. The forest seems to lean toward me, listening, its pulse quickening with every blink. The orbs flash again, closer now, not brighter, just more insistent. I sense presence in the light, something intelligent, patient, waiting. The fog thickens, curling around the tower in slow loops. Shadows stretch along the platform, moving against the grain of the moonlight. The air tastes of cold metal. Every breath I take presses against my chest. I reach for the binoculars. Cold lenses press against my face. The orbs shift, glimmering through the swirls of fog. They hover, aware of my gaze, and I cannot turn away. The forest below is alive with subtle movement. Not animal, not human. A consciousness folded into trees, moss, earth, watching, breathing, patient. The hum beneath the tower is faint, but present. I feel it under my boots, through the railing, vibrating softly in the air, layered with the fog and the distant light. The orbs retreat slightly, pulling the fog with them, leaving the forest still and tense, its pulse slow, deliberate. I step back from the railing. The tower sways gently. The cold presses deeper into my skin. The forest stretches on, endless and silent. I can still feel the gaze of the lights. The fog swirls in currents that are not natural, and the trees bend subtly toward them, toward me, towards something unseen. I descend the tower slowly. Every step creaks underfoot. The wind carries a faint metallic tang, and the pulse of the forest lingers in my chest. Inside, the cabin feels warmer, smaller, safer. But the memory of the orbs presses at the edges of the walls. The fog coils around the windows. The forest waits, patient, its consciousness folded into the cold and shadows. I sit quietly. The tower, the lights, the fog, all linger in the mind like a whisper. Silent, patient, aware. The cabin is quiet beneath a gray morning sky. Frost curls along the window pane, pale and brittle. The forest beyond waits, patient and still. I find on the shelf a journal, worn and cold to the touch. The leather smells faintly of wood smoke and damp earth. I open the cover. Pages yellowed, curling at the edges. The handwriting is careful, deliberate, yet hurried in places. The first entry is dated after I arrived. My pulse tightens. Every line describes things I have seen myself. Lights pulsing beyond the tree lean. Shadows bending in impossible ways. Whispers curling in the fog. I trace the words with my fingers. The paper feels fragile, yet the memory pressed into it is vivid. I can smell the cold ink, faintly metallic, mingling with the pine in the cabin. Another page. The words spiral into descriptions of shapes I know. Too tall, too thin. Patient figures that watch from the edges of the forest. The journal hums with quiet familiarity. Each page mirrors my own observations, my own unease. It is as if someone else is living these moments alongside me, but always behind. The fog presses against the window. I can hear the rustle of branches, the faint hum beneath the floorboards. The air tastes faintly metallic and damp. I continue reading. Dates fold over one another. Lines are written after my arrival, yet I am certain no one else has been here. The entries grow more fragmented. Mentions of whispers that answer themselves. Lights that move with intent, as if aware of the observer. A page flutters in the draft. I catch it, cold fingertips brushing paper. The words seem to shift under my gaze, though I know that is impossible. I feel the presence of the forest pressing closer. The trees bend subtly, patient. The fog coils around the cabin corners, drawing warmth from the room. I close the journal. The questions linger, heavier than the pages themselves. I am not alone in my experience. Or perhaps I never was. The air is silent. The faint hum beneath the floorboards resonates with my pulse. The frost on the window blurs into shapes I cannot name. The journal lies heavy in my lap. I sit quietly. The forest stretches endlessly beyond the glass. The fog swirls in slow, deliberate currents, and the memories pressed into paper echo my own, folded into the air, patient, aware. The confusion settles into my chest. A slow, persistent weight. I cannot separate what I lived from what I read. The diary whispers alongside the wind, and the forest listens patient, holding secrets I cannot reach. The cabin sits under a pale, frosted moon. Outside, the forest waits, silent and patient. The air smells of damp wood and cold earth, sharp and heavy. Night presses against the windows. Shadows curl along the walls. The wood creaks softly under its own weight. I lie awake. A thump, faint, beneath the floorboards. Then another, slower, deeper. Not the house settling. Not entirely. I rise. Bare feet brush the cold floor. The air tastes of frost and something faintly metallic, hanging heavy in my throat. The walls shift, subtle, almost imperceptible. A swell here, a ripple there, as if the cabin breathes in time with me, or against me. I place my hand on the wood. Warmth radiates faintly. Then a pulse. Not mine. Slow, deliberate, patient. The hum of the cabin grows low, almost musical, layered with a whisper that curls in the corners of my mind. I hear fragments, soft and urgent, words I cannot understand, yet they press against my chest. The frost presses at the windows, turning light pale and fractured. The air stirs slightly, carrying scent of pine, damp earth, and something older, deeper. I trace the grain of the wall with my fingers. The pulse continues, steady, vibrating under my skin. I cannot tell if it is warning or waiting. Soft footsteps echo somewhere in the shadows. But I am alone. Every corner hums, alive, patient. The wood seems to lean inward, attentive, folding around me like a living thing. I step back. The thumps continue, slower now, measured. The whispers curl and fade, then return, lingering in the hollow spaces of the room. I press my palm to the wall again. The heartbeat is steady, warm beneath my skin. It matches nothing I feel within myself. Cold air brushes my face. The cabin breathes, patient and aware. I sit in the corner, blanket drawn tight. The shadows sway subtly. The hum beneath the floorboards pulses. Every thump echoes in my chest. The frost moves with the moonlight. The walls expand and contract gently, like lungs, like the memory of something hidden in the grain. I close my eyes. The pulse continues, slow and deliberate. The whispers linger in the corners. The cabin breathes around me, alive in its own quiet way, patient, attentive, and I cannot leave its gaze. The morning is pale and still. Mist curls along the ground. Then at first, almost shy, the forest edges blur in gray, soft and distant. I step outside. The air smells damp, earthy, and cold. Frost clings to my boots. The fog shifts. A curl here, a drift there, and then it moves toward me. Slow, patient, deliberate. I turn. It follows, sliding over the snow, around the trees, coiling into every hollow, every shadow. Shadows stretch along the ground. They bend in ways that do not match the trees, leaning, curling, watching. I feel them fold into the fog, aware. I quicken my steps. The snow crunches underfoot. The mist tightens around me, folding into corners, pressing against the warmth of my breath. The air tastes metallic, damp. Every inhale pulls cold through my chest. I glance back. The fog mirrors my motion, moving with intent, alive in a way I cannot explain. I try to reach the cabin. The door feels distant. The fog slides over the yard, fingers curling along the boards, pressing, patient, insistent. I pause. Shadows fold around me, stretching taller than trees, thinner than anything natural. The air hums faintly, vibrating through boots, through fingertips, through the frozen ground. I step forward again. The fog follows, curling higher, into the shapes I cannot name. It presses against my coat, my neck, cold and damp, soft as breath. The forest is silent. No wind, no bird, only the fog moving, sliding across snow and earth, aware, patient, waiting. I reach the cabin door, hands cold on the wood. The fog coils at the threshold, pressing warm from the room, folding shadows into the corners. I step inside. The warmth is faint, brittle against the chill. Through the window, the fog drifts closer, curling in unnatural currents, moving on its own, deliberate, patient. I pull a blanket around my shoulders. The pulse of the mist is in my chest, in the edges of the room, in the weight of the silence. I cannot shake it. It follows, folds into every corner, every shadow, watching, breathing, aware. I sit quietly. The snow outside shimmers pale in the fog. The forest waits. And the mist, it lingers, patient, pressing, folding itself into the night. The night is pale and endless. Snow drifts quietly against the cabin walls. The air smells sharp, cold, and faintly metallic. I glance out the window, and there it is, a figure, standing still in the snow. No face, no sound, just presence. The world bends softly around it, fog curling at its edges. I breathe slowly. The cold presses at my cheeks. The snow falls to the figure, drifting, undisturbed, yet the ground beneath remains untouched. I blink. The shape does not shift. It watches, patient, silent, and I feel a pulse in the air, like the forest itself is slow to observe. The hum of the cabin feels distant now. Footsteps I do not hear seem to trace along the edges of the yard. The wind is still. The only sound is my breath, curling in front of me, fragile. I step closer to the glass, fingers cold against the window pane. The figure remains. No footprints mark its presence. No movement breaks the snow around it. I tilt my head. The fog drifts, curling, flowing around the shape. It is here, yet not entirely in this world. I step back. The cabin floor creaks beneath my boots. The warmth of the room fights against the chill pressing in from outside. The figure does not move. It waits. I blink again, and it is gone. Nothing but untouched snow remains. The forest waits beyond the yard, patient, infinite. I inhale slowly. The air tastes faintly of frost and pine. My heartbeat thuds in the quiet. I can feel the memory of the figure pressing at the edges of my vision, alive in absence, folded into the snowflakes, still drifting in the night. I sit by the window. The cold air seeps through the cracks. The world is still, but I know it was here. I do not know how. I do not know why. The snow falls quietly. Shadows stretch and fade into white. The visitor is gone, but its presence lingers, patient, silent, and impossible to name. I pull a blanket around my shoulders. The warmth is faint. Outside, the snow drifts and curls, and the forest waits, quiet, endless, and aware. The night is thick, colder than before. Frost clings to the needles of the pines. The air smells of damp earth and resin, heavy and sharp. I step outside. The snow crunches underfoot. Breath curls before me, small and fragile, fading quickly. Pairs of lights blink between the trees. Soft, pale, deliberate. I freeze. They move slowly, keeping pace, never breaking rhythm. The forest hums faintly. Branches rustle against each other, yet no wind stirs. The lights shift with intent. Aware of me, patient, waiting, I move forward. The snow presses cold beneath my boots. The lights mirror each step, twisting to the fog like soft eyes peering through the mist. Sometimes I swear I hear it. A laugh, not human, curled, jagged, curling around the trunks, folding into the snow and shadows. I pause. The fog drifts low, curling around my ankles. The lights hover, blinking softly, bending through the trees with impossible grace. The forest breathes with me, or perhaps I with it. Every rustle, every snap of twig presses against my chest. The air tastes faintly metallic and cold. I reach a clearing. The The lights hang at the edge, following, patient, deliberate. The snow beneath them is untouched. Not a footprint, not a trace. The laugh curls again. It folds into the hush of the pines, soft and jagged at once. I shiver, though the movement is slow, and my pulse folds into the rhythm of the forest. I step back. The lights remain, blinking softly. Shadows bend toward them, stretching thinner than trees, taller than the tallest pines. They watch. I watch, and the world hums with quiet tension. I crouch, pressing hands to snow. Cold bites through gloves, through sleeves. The air vibrates faintly, as if the forest itself hums beneath the snow, beneath the roots, aware of my presence. I exhale slowly. The lights blink, not breaking rhythm. The laugh fades, curling into silence, but the memory lingers sharp in the crisp night air. I rise, step carefully toward the cabin. The lights do not leave. They follow, patient, deliberate, folding into the fog and shadows, aware of every motion. I reach the door. The warmth inside presses against the cold. I glance back once. The lights linger at the tree line, blinking, watching, and I know the forest is alive with them, aware, patient, impossible to name. I close the door quietly. The snow falls outside, soft, white, untouched. The shadows and the pines bend and stretch, and I can still feel the presence of eyes, blinking in the night, curled around the fog, watching, waiting. I wake slowly. The room is gray, but not with light. Fog coils along the floor, thick and silent. The air tastes metallic, sharp and cold, curling along my tongue. It fills my lungs with weight, heavy and deliberate. Shadows fold into corners. The edges of the walls shimmer, subtle, breathing. I press a hand to the window. Cold seeps through the glass, folding into the mist inside. Whispers drift around me, soft, curling, just beyond clarity. Words I almost remember. Phrases folded into the edges of my mind, pressing against the warmth of my chest. The floorboards hum faintly. I rise, slow, careful, feet brushing the frost that gathers at the edges of the rug. The fog swirls in response, pushing toward me, patient, deliberate. I touch the doorframe. It pulses faintly beneath my fingers. Not wood alone. Something alive folds into its grain, breathing, waiting. The whispers repeat, turning in circles around me, folding in on themselves, stretching thin and sharp. The air tastes sharper now, cold, metallic, carrying the scent of damp pine from outside. I shiver. The fog coils closer, pressing warm from my skin, pressing questions into my chest I cannot name. The room moves subtly. Walls swell. Corners bend inward. Shadows stretch, curling along the ceiling and floor. The hum rises, faint, constant, like the pulse of the cabin itself. I sit slowly on the bed. The blanket folds over my shoulders, but warmth fights the cold that clings to the fog. The whispers curl, soft, urgent, familiar and alien. I press my hands over my ears. Still I hear them, words that almost make sense, twisting into the hum of the cabin, folding into my own heartbeat. I breathe carefully. Fog drifts past my cheeks, cold and metallic, curling into the hollows of the room. Every inhale folds the whispers closer. Every exhale leaves the air heavier. The corners throb with subtle movement. Shadows lean, patient and slow. The cabin breathes with me, or I with it. I cannot tell. I lie back, pressing against the mattress, eyes wide in gray fog. The whispers circle, the air tastes sharp, and the walls, they pulse gently, alive in their quiet way, watching, waiting, and I am alone with them. The snow is heavy and silent. Each step presses a soft rhythm beneath my boots. The air smells sharp, cold, carrying the scent of wet pine. A faint pulse hums beneath the surface. It is subtle, almost lost in the whisper of the wind. I follow it, careful, slow, letting the snow guide my steps. The ground dips, a subtle hollow under the frost, hidden, patient. I kneel, brush snow aside. A hatch, half buried, edges dark against white. I press my palm to the metal. It vibrates faintly. Cold bites through my glove, but warmth hums beneath, pulsing steady, deliberate. I open it. The air rises, damp and heavy. It smells of earth, machinery, and something older, folded into shadows. The bunker is small, low-ceilinged. Instruments blink softly, lights pulsing in quiet rhythm. No one moves, yet the shadows stretch and bend, curling along walls and corners, deliberate, patient. I step inside slowly. The snow crunches faintly underfoot, though the frost is gone in this dim warmth. Every breath tastes metallic and heavy. The hum of the instruments merges with something deeper, a low vibration beneath my feet, under my skin, under the floorboards. Shadows twist with intent, leaning, curling, folding toward the blinking lights. I place a hand on a console. The pulse continues, steady, alive. The air carries whispers, soft, almost remembered words, curling through the room and pressing against my chest. A light flickers. Shadows stretch in response. They do not move like people, but like aware things, patient, observing, waiting. I breathe slowly. The cold of the snow outside still lingers in the edges of the bunker. Every hum, every blink, every fold of shadow presses against me. The instruments pulse, and I feel them in my chest, a rhythm both familiar and impossible to name. I trace the edge of the walls. Rough concrete, cold under fingertips. Yet the shadows curl, leaning closer, aware, deliberate, patient. I step back. The signal pulses beneath the snow, folding through the bunker, pressing warm from the air. I feel both fear and wonder. The lights blink, steady. The shadows stretch, folding into corners. No sound except the hum, the pulse beneath the floor, and my own breathing, slow, careful. I crouch, hands on knees, chest pressed to the rhythm. The room is alive in quiet ways, full of presence, patient, deliberate. The snow above presses faintly, and the shadows wait. I rise slowly. The hum continues, steady, insistent, and I know the signal is not just beneath the snow, but folded into everything here, alive, watching, impossible to leave behind. The air is brittle, sharp with frost. Each step presses quietly into the white. The scent of pine and frozen earth curls around me. I stop. Footprints trace across the snow. Deep, elongated, impossible. They crisscross with human prints. But none are mine. The cold presses my cheeks, biting. A faint hum lingers in the air, as if the snow itself holds its breath. I crouch, fingers brushing the edges of prints. Rough, compressed snow. Not human, yet familiar in some impossible way. I rise. Shadows stretch between the pines, longer than they should be. Something moves silently nearby, close enough to hear the faint shift of air, but I see nothing. The wind curls faintly, carrying the scent of cold metal. My heartbeat folds into the hush of the forest. I step carefully, eyes scanning the trees. Each print seems to pulse beneath my gaze, alive, deliberate. I follow them slowly. The human prints weave alongside the strange ones. Their rhythm feels intentional, folding into mine, pressing questions I cannot answer. A rustle curls behind a tree. I freeze. Nothing moves, yet the air feels thick with presence. The frost bites deeper. Shadows lean, stretching closer with quiet patience. The snow beneath my boots hums faintly. The elongated prints vanish into the fog, curling into the white, folding into the silence of the forest. I pause, breathe shallow. Every sound, my pulse, the hum of frost, the whisper of wind, folds into moment. A soft movement brushes the edge of my vision. Closer, intentional, impossible to track. The footprints left behind hold questions, but no answers come. The cold presses inward. Snow swirls softly around the strange tracks, masking them, folding them into white. The forest exhales slowly, and I am left alone with the silence it leaves behind. I step back toward the cabin. Every step echoes faintly, yet nothing follows. The prints vanish into fog and frost, but the memory of something moving, silent, patient, aware, lingers in the air, curling into the hush around me. I touch the cabin door. Cold wood presses beneath my fingers, solid, familiar, yet carrying the hum of the forest. The shadows retreat, slightly. The snow drifts quietly. I am alone, but I feel it. The presence that moves with deliberate care, folded into the frost, trailing through the silence, watching, patient, impossible to name. The night air tastes cold, metallic. I step outside, boots pressing softly into frost. Lanterns hang along the cabin's edge, warm pale light spilling onto snow. I linger a moment. Fog curls around the trunks of pines, low and slow. It swirls at my ankles, pulling warm from the air, quiet, patient. I return inside. The cabin hums faintly, settling into silence. Sleep comes slowly, wrapped in a hush of fog pressing against the windows. Morning arrives muted. Lanterns I left glowing dimly now flicker faintly, like they've been inhaling the day's warmth and brightness. Their light is thin, pale, stretched across frost. The fog thickens outside, heavy and low, curling around each tree and stone, pressing close to the cabin. It drifts over snow, folding silence into itself. I step outside. The cold bites, sharper than before. Lanterns hum faintly, their glow weaker, hesitant. The fog leans, pressing warmth and sound from the air. I touch a lantern. Metal is cold, slick with condensation. Its light wavers under my fingers, fragile, stretched thin. The snow is heavier here, damp and cold, pressing against boots. A soft hum rides beneath the fog. It curls into the air, into bones of the cabin. I hear whispers in the swirl, so faint they could be my own breath returning. I move slowly between lanterns. Each one seems to sigh, dim, retreating light. The fog swirls around my ankles, then my knees, pulling at warmth, swallowing echoes of movement. Shadows lean from the trees. Not long, not human, but deliberate, stretching toward the thinning light. The silence presses against my ears, a weight, soft, constant, patient. I step back toward the cabin. The lantern's glow fades further, folding into fog, into air, into quiet. The snow hums faintly underfoot, holding the memory of warmth, of sound, and letting it go slowly, deliberately. I pause at the doorway. The air tastes metallic, biting. The fog swirls closer, thicker now, heavy and still. Every sound, every warmth, every breath seems absorbed into its folds. I press my hand against the wood of the cabin, solid, grounding, yet humming faintly beneath my fingers. The lanterns dim, the fog folds, and I am alone, surrounded by a quiet that pulls and stretches, patient, uneasing, and impossible to name. The lake is frozen, still, silver under pale morning light. Frost bites the edges of my boots. Air tastes clean and sharp, carrying the scent of snow and wet pine. I walk close to the shore. The ice cracks faintly beneath my weight. Soft, deliberate lines spreading outward, like veins in glass. A dark shimmer moves under the surface. Eyes, staring from beneath the frozen skin of the lake. They are wide, still impossible. I step back, breath shallow. The cold presses in, biting at my face and fingers. The eyes vanish. Nothing but frozen glass and snow. A hum rises, low and soft, curling through the frost. It folds into the air, into my chest, into the stillness around me. I hear it in the tips of the pines, in the weight of the snow, in the frost underfoot. I step closer again. The ice trembles faintly. Dark shapes shift beneath the surface, aware, deliberate, folding into gray beneath the frozen crust. The air hums with quiet tension. Snow drifts softly across the ice, covering the cracks, hiding the dark eyes. The frost clings to my coat, my boots, my fingers. I crouch, hand hovering above the ice. Cold presses through my gloves, yet the hum is warmer, alive, deliberate. A shadow stirs beneath, stretching, patient. I step back. The eyes do not return, but the hum lingers, curling through the air. Every exhale folds into silence. Every heartbeat presses against the tension. I stand still. Snow drifts across the frozen surface. The forest around me exhales slowly. Branches creak faintly, carrying the weight of frost. The ice is still again, silver and unbroken, but the hum remains, soft, deliberate, like something aware waits beneath, patient, impossible to reach. I turn, leaving the shore. The frost crunches underfoot. The eyes do not follow, but the memory of them curls into the silence, folding into the hum and into me. The fog presses close against the cabin. It rolls over the snow, curling around trees, thick as wet smoke. I step inside. The door isn't where I left it, which shifts slightly, leaning against the frame at an odd angle. A soft scratch hums through the walls. It follows me as I move, skittering along with breathless patience. The air tastes cold, metallic. My fingers brush the edge of the doorway. It feels alive, slightly warm, pulsing beneath the rough wood. Outside, the fog swirls heavier. It coils around trees and stones, pressing closer to the cabin with slow deliberation. I take a step back. The scratches grow faintly louder, sliding along the walls like a breath that isn't mine. Every creak echoes. Every shift holds weight. I move toward the opposite wall. The cabin feels smaller, narrower. The fog presses against the window, distorting light, curling shadows into corners. I touch the wood where the door should be. It gives slightly under my hand. A heartbeat hums beneath the grain, not mine, not human. The scratches follow, circling, tracing my movements. The air grows thick with the scent of wet pine and old wood. It presses into my lungs, heavy, deliberate. I step away, boots crunching softly on frost. The fog moves with me, curling tendrils through the frame, through the edges of glass, into every shadowed corner. The door tilts, ever so slightly. I feel it, watching, patient, deliberate. The scratches pause and resume, curling around the walls like soft footsteps I can't see. I breathe slowly, trying to ground myself. The fog presses, alive, folding silence into every creak, every shiver of the cabin's timber. I back toward the window. The light outside is pale, diffused, swallowed by smoke and frost. I hear whispers in the shifting wood, and the faint echo of my own heartbeat, folding into theirs. The door is still not where I left it. The scratches circle, patient, deliberate. The fog leans, pulling warmth and sound from the room. I stand alone. Every shadow stretches a little longer. Every breath lingers heavier. And the cabin waits, quiet, moving, alive around me. The path to the tower is narrow, edged with frost-laced pines. The fog curls around the trunks, cold and alive. Each step crunches softly, echoing in the silence. I reach the base, though it feels rough beneath my palms, chilled by the night. A hum rises from beneath the floorboards, low and steady. I climb. The ladder shivers slightly under my weight, groaning like it remembers others who never returned. Shadows crawl in corners, just out of sight. They stretch along beams, curl into the gaps between boards. I feel them watching. The fog moves beneath me. It swirls to the tower's legs, curling upward, soft tendrils pressing warm from the air, pulling sound into its gray depths. I pause. The hum grows a fraction louder, vibrating beneath my feet. Breath fogs the air, mingling with the scent of damp wood and pine. Every heartbeat drifts into the quiet, folding into the murmurs beneath the floor. I climb higher. Each step pulls a whisper from the boards, words I almost recognize but cannot grasp. The fog coils tighter outside, hands reaching upward, scraping against the tower's frame, tickling the gaps with invisible fingers. I reach the top. The air is thinner, colder, yet the hum resonates more strongly here, like the tower itself is alive, breathing beneath me. Shadows move in the corners, flickering along the beams, stretching just past my vision. I strain to see, but the edges remain blurred, as if the fog itself protects them. A soft breeze slides through the cracks, bringing the smell of wet earth and frost. It carries a hum, wrapping it around me, thick as a blanket I cannot shed. I lean against the railing. The fog churns beneath me, curling like fingers that try to pull the warmth and light from a world. I hear a whisper, and then another, each one closer, always just beyond reach. The shadows pause when I blink. When I look again, they crawl further, patient, deliberate. The hum shifts, subtle, almost conversational. I breathe. The ladder behind me groans. The tower creaks with weight I cannot see, floorboards sigh beneath centuries of quiet. I step back from the edge. The fog swirls and pulses, a river of gray moving beneath my feet, alive with unseen presence. And I realize the tower is not abandoned. Not really. It listens, it waits, and it hums with secrets I cannot hold. I stand alone. The shadows and whispers remain, folded into the fog, curling around the structure like living threads. The night stretches on, slow, deliberate, and the tower breathes beneath me. The morning light is pale, slipping weakly through frost-coated windows. The air smells of cold pine and lingering smoke from last night's fire. I move slowly across the cabin floor, boots quiet against the wood. I glance at the frozen window. My breath fogs the glass. And then I see it. A reflection, but not mine. It moves differently, slightly delayed, or perhaps ahead of me. I raise a hand. The reflection mirrors me at first, then bends its fingers in ways I cannot. A shiver runs up my spine. The glass is cold against my palm, yet warmth seems to leak from it, pressing inward like the frost itself is breathing. I step back. The reflection tilts its head. It watches, or perhaps studies me. I cannot tell which. A whispering hum rises, almost imperceptible, threading through the air like wind to the trees outside. The cabin feels smaller now, walls pressing closer, the frost lining the windows thicker. I move closer again. The reflection smiles. Or it mocks. Its eyes glint, pale and liquid in the muted light. The floorboard sighed beneath me. Outside, the wind stirs the fog, and it seems to respond to a window, curling around the glass, wrapping itself like smoke around the cabin. I breathe. My reflection, no, the thing in the glass, gestures slowly, a warning or a lure. I cannot distinguish. I step back, feeling the cold bite my cheeks. The frost etches tiny cracks across the glass, through which the thing peers at me, patient, deliberate. The hum rises a fraction, vibrating faintly beneath the soles of my boots. It feels alive, as though the cabin itself holds its breath. I touch the glass again. The cold is sharper now, and my fingertips tingle. The reflection moves, its lips forming shapes I cannot hear, words swallowed by silence. A shadow shift behind me. I spin. Nothing. Just the cabin, empty, quiet, and the fog pressing at the edges of the walls. I return my gaze to the window. The figure tilts its head, then slowly, almost imperceptibly, fades back, merging with my own frozen image. I stand, frozen in place. The frost cracks softly, a faint pop beneath the tension in the air. My heartbeat thuds in my ears, and yet the cabin remains silent. I feel the cold press deeper, and a subtle dread coils in my stomach. Outside, the fog drifts in lazy waves, and the world seems heavier, slower, as though watching. I step back from the window. The reflection does not move again. The frost clings to the glass, and the hum fades to a whisper. But I know it waits. Somewhere inside that frozen pain, a presence lingers, patient and deliberate. I cannot see it fully, but I can feel it, breathing, watching, separate from me. And I realize the reflection has never been mine. The night presses heavy outside the cabin. Pine needles scrape the windows, cold and brittle. I wrap my arms around myself, the wood floor hard beneath my bare feet. A draft slips through the cracks. It whispers, cold, sharp, almost sentient, curling around my ankles, sifting across the room with a touch that bites. The fire is low, orange shadows flickering lazily against the walls. But the corners, dark and uneven, seem to move on their own. Shadows stretch, bend, fold into impossible angles, slithering like smoke across the floorboards. I hear a soft rustle behind me. I turn. Nothing. Yet the sensation of being followed lingers, like warm breath brushing the back of my neck. But it is ice. The air tastes metallic. Faint, fleeting scent of pine and frost mingle with something older, damp, and distant. My eyes trace the walls, and the shadows obey, shifting where I do not. I step closer to the window. The glass is frosted over, hiding the world outside. And yet movement stirs within the reflection of the room itself, a darkness that curls along the edges of the cabin like ink and water. A hum rises, barely audible, threading through the walls and floors, vibrating beneath my feet. The draft grows, snaking around furniture, tugging at my clothes, pressing the air heavy and close. I reach for the door. It is solid, unmoving, yet I feel it breathe beneath my fingertips. The walls sigh softly, as if the cabin itself exhales with the cold, and shadows leap from corner to corner in silent, impossible dances. I step back. The cold presses in my chest. I shiver, teeth rattling in the stillness. The air tastes faintly of iron and ice, lingering on my tongue. The darkness thickens. Shadows ripple across the ceiling, stretching downward, folding over themselves. They move independently, as if alive, and the hum curls higher, coiling around my ribcage, making breath shallow, uncertain. I move toward the fireplace. The fire flickers, shadows trembling with it. Yet the darker shapes in the corners remain constant, patient. They lean, tilt, disappear, and reappear. I cannot name them, cannot count them. The draft sweeps again, curling through my hair, my clothes, and for a moment I feel fingers graze my shoulder. I spin, heart hammering. Nothing but the cabin, empty, silent, and the cold that lingers, breathing. I sink to the floor. The wood bites my skin, but I do not care. The hum is softer now, pulsing beneath the walls, wrapping around the room like smoke made of frost. I stare at the shadows. They flit across walls, crawling with intent. I can feel them in the air, in the draft that snakes along my ankles, in the frost that creeps along the edges of the window. The cabin exhales again. The cold presses closer, like living water, and I cannot move. I cannot leave. I feel entirely alone, yet watched, surrounded by the presence of something that is not me, that does not belong, that drifts silently through the room, just beyond sight. The draft curls one last time, brushing my cheek, and then stillness settles. The shadows freeze in impossible angles. The cabin is quiet, except for memory of movement, and the lingering hum beneath the floorboards. I breathe, slowly, and wait. The forest is silent, yet heavy with movement. Branches scrape each other under the weight of fog, and every step I take sinks into damp earth, soft and uncertain. The path I followed yesterday, it is gone. Where footprints once pressed into soil, there's only endless gray. The fog coils around the trees, twisting upward, swallowing trunks, hiding what lies ahead, or behind. I pause. The smell of wet pine and decay fills the air, thick and pungent. A shiver runs along my spine, and my breath drifts in front of me like smoke. Something rustles to my right. I freeze. A shadow flits between trunks, gone when I blink. The fog moves with it, curling along my ankles, pressing close. I take a step forward. The ground is soft, muffled, unfamiliar. I turn, hoping to find a path again, but every direction is the same gray, a labyrinth made of mist and silence. Footsteps echo behind me. Or is it my own? They are irregular, skittering, never landing where I would. I call out, my voice swallowed immediately, damp and cold, leaving only a faint vibration on my lips. No reply comes, but the sensation of being followed tightens in the air. The fog thickens. It crawls along tree roots, coils over rocks, swallowing them in a slow, deliberate embrace. Shadows bend inside the mist, strangers or reflections of my own fear. I cannot tell. A branch snaps nearby. I whip my head around, heart hammering, but see only a column of fog, undisturbed by my glance. The forest itself feels alive, pulsing, watching. I step again, boots sinking into wet moss, each footfall soft, muted, swallowed immediately. Movement brushes past my shoulder, quick, light, deliberate. But when I spin, nothing is there. The scent of damp earth grows stronger, mingling with something faintly acrid, like smoke from a fire long gone. It clings to the fog, heavy, pressing into my lungs, and the gray stretches endlessly in every direction. I reach for a tree, rough bark rasping against my fingers, and the fog seems to swirl around me like liquid. A sound rises, soft footsteps echoing mine, but always just out of sync, always just beyond sight. I try to mark my path with scratches and bark, stones piled into small cairns, but when I glance back, they are gone. The fog erased them, patient and thorough. A low hum vibrates through the ground. I kneel, pressing my palm to the earth. The vibration is steady, pulsing like a heartbeat, but not mine. It thrums beneath me, beneath the forest itself, as though the mist is alive, breathing, thinking. I walk again. The fog wraps around my legs, dampening sound, pressing close, cold as steel. I feel a presence beside me, a weight that does not belong, moving with me, shaping the mist around it. The path is gone. The forest stretches endlessly, and the fog continues to follow, curling, bending, leaning toward me, never tiring, never retreating. I stop. The silence that follows is not empty. It hums, low and soft, and shadows flicker in corners of the fog, just out of reach, just beyond understanding. I breathe slowly. I try to steady my heart. The footsteps behind me continue, and I realize there is no way back, only forward, into gray, into the fog that watches. The outpost sits alone, beneath a sky of pale gray. Snow drifts against the walls, soft and silent. The wind hums faintly through broken panels, but the forest beyond presses close, still and expectant. The lights inside the outpost dim. A flicker runs along wires, brief and uneven, like a pulse struggling to hold. Shadows stretch across the walls, curling toward the corners, lingering, watching. I move slowly, boots muffled on the cold metal floor. The smell of ozone and old electronics clings to the air. Each breath tastes faintly of rust and frost, and the fog outside seems to lean closer with every exhale. At the edges of my vision, shapes hover. They are dark, almost solid, but never clear. I sense their eyes, or something like eyes, following, waiting, studying. The lights flicker again, and in that brief darkness, the silence presses in. It is thick, heavy, wrapping around my chest, and my own heartbeat feels foreign beneath it. I step toward the window. Frost clings to the glass, and I trace a finger along it. Outside, the fog swirls, curling like smoke, thick enough to obscure everything beyond a few feet. Movement flits at the edges of that gray, shapes bending, drifting just out of reach. They do not hurry. They do not pause. They are patient, deliberate, almost expectant. A low hum rises through floorboards. It vibrates against my knees, climbs my spine. The outpost groans quietly, as though settling beneath the weight of unseen eyes. I feel small, alone, suspended in a breathless moment. The lights dim again, longer this time. The shadows gather, pooling in corners, melting into the fog that presses at the walls. I step back. Every sound, every breath, is amplified against the hush. The fog thickens, sliding beneath doors, curling along windowsills. It tastes faintly of wet metal and frostbitten pine, and I can feel its weight, heavy and deliberate, as if the world itself leans inward. Shapes flicker once more. No eyes, no faces, only silhouettes that bend and pulse, breathing with the fog. I do not run. I cannot. There is nowhere to go. I place a hand on the wall, cold and rough beneath my palm. It hums faintly beneath my touch, and the air tastes of electric frost, like the moment before a storm breaks. The lights flicker one last time, casting long, pale shadows that stretch across the room. Then stillness. The world is quiet, wrapped in the fog, silent but aware. I sit, pressed to the wall, listening to my own breath mingling with the hum beneath the floorboards. Outside, shapes linger at the edge of vision. Inside, the outpost waits, and the last light flickers softly, until it is only shadow. The fog presses closer. I breathe it in. It tastes of waiting. And I realize I am part of it now. The snow crunches softly beneath my boots. The outpost behind me hums faintly. Its lights are pale, steady pulse against the dark. The wind is still. Even the trees hold their breath. A fog lingers, thin and cool, drifting over the frozen ground. I step forward, feeling the cold bite through my gloves. The air tastes of frost and silence. Every step echoes, sharp and hollow, then swallowed by the night. Above me, the sky shifts. Stars bend and shimmer, strange lights drifting toward me, pulsing slowly, deliberately. They are distant, yet I feel their weight in the chest, a pressure, soft but insistent. I breathe in and the cold fills my lungs. The frost tastes metallic, faintly sweet. My shadow stretches long across the snow, thin and trembling under the pale starlight. The lights drift closer, hovering, bending like liquid fire. I can feel a hum beneath the soles of my boots, a vibration carried up through the snow, into my knees, into my chest. There is no sound besides my own breath, no footsteps behind me, no movement in the fog. I am entirely alone. The outpost glows faintly, its pulse slow, synchronized with something I cannot name. Shadows flicker along the walls, bending toward the fog, and then disappear. A cold gust drifts across my face, carrying the faint smell of ozone and ice. The snow drifts curl like smoke at my ankles, then lift, swirling around the edges of those distant lights. I raise my eyes. They watch me, the stars and shapes bending, pulsing, alive in some unknowable way. I feel small, like a single breath suspended in the infinite dark. My hands are numb. The wind brushes my hair and cheeks, soft, almost tender, then gone. I take another step forward. The snow resists beneath me, soft and heavy. The lights bend closer still, but not threatening, curious, patient, impossible to name. I stand alone. The outpost hums faintly behind me, and the sky holds me in its pulse, its silence. I inhale and the cold fills me. I exhale and the night swallows it, a soft sigh of frost and isolation. The stars drift closer. The lights bend around me, circling, hovering. I can feel the hum in my chest and my bones, as if the world itself has paused, watching. I do not move. I cannot move. There is nowhere to go. The fog drifts, curling around my boots, rising, lighter than air but heavier than silence. I taste it in the cold, metallic tang of night, and then I realize no one is coming. No one will come. I am entirely alone. The outpost hums behind me. The lights pulse faintly. Above, the sky bends, alive and waiting. I stand and I watch. I breathe and I wait. The stars drift closer, and I feel the quiet despair of knowing that this moment is mine alone. The fog presses, the lights bend, and the world holds its breath with me. Alone among the stars, I realize that silence is infinite, and I am part of it now.